Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of my reaction to the top 50 craziest things Trump has done as president, released by GQ earlier today, trending on YouTube. We ended off at number 25, hopefully about halfway through the video, and we're going to be continuing here at number 26, working our way all the way up to 20 or 50, so here we go.
January 29th, falsely claims Muslim ban is just an offshoot of the reevaluation of immigrant vetting once ordered by Obama. This was only in Iraq.
All right, so that wasn't him who was arguing that. That was actually the conservative media. And you got to stop calling him Muslim ban because it's not a Muslim ban. Like I said, it's a travel ban on countries that the Obama administration created or wrote down. These are the countries that the Obama administration acknowledged as dangerous and a potential potential threat to the United States. Trump acknowledged that, banned immigration from these countries. And it's not him that was comparing it to the 2011 Iran immigration ban. It was actually the conservative media. So you're bashing Trump here for something that he didn't even do, when really you should be fighting against the conservative media for trying to relate two things that actually do relate really well together. Because what happened was in 2011, Obama banned immigration from Iran, a civil war, Muslim or ISIS-torn country, war-torn country, and nobody said anything. So now when Trump does it, everybody's just losing their minds. So we'll go on to number 27 here.
Dismisses anti-ban statement by Senators Graham and McCain by calling them, quote, former presidential candidates. Says nothing as purported white supremacist Trump.
Okay, he just disacknowledged things that they said because they were wrong, and they're just trying to paint that as bad here. Let's go on to number 28.
Trump fan allegedly opens fire at a Quebec City mosque, killing 6, injuring 5.
All right, so this isn't even this investigation in the Quebec mosque isn't even done yet. The Trump fan, I have no honest opinion about that. I really did not look. I haven't looked into this whole ordeal yet. I'm not too educated about the Quebec murderings or the Quebec shootings so far. So I don't really know too much about it, and I'm not sure how this has any relationship with Trump whatsoever. I thought we were talking about the 50 craziest things that Trump has done, and I don't see how somebody that may or may not have supported him, I still don't think they supported him. I thought this was a radical Muslim attack on another mosque, another Muslim organization, and just because he may have been associated or liked Donald Trump does not mean that that's something that Donald Trump has done that's worthy of impeachment. So there you go.
January 30th claims weekend airport chaos owes not to his Muslim and refugee ban, but to Delta computer problems and the, quote, fake tears of Senator Schumer.
Yeah, Senator Schumer really he stirred the pot and made everybody really angry for no reason over this immigration ban that we really needed, and have everybody go to the airports and protest and cause a lot of normal Americans not to be able to go see their families, not to be able to travel across the country because they were protesting travel for no reason whatsoever. And now we're trying to flip, this guy's trying to flip the side here and blame Trump for that when it was really the protesters' fault. And if Trump wanted to blame the computer system at Delta for not being able to handle all of the probably, what would you call it, when somebody misses their plane and they need to get a new ticket, rescheduling, the computer system probably couldn't handle all the rescheduling that happened with everybody missing their planes. So that's pretty logical right there. So to blame that and the protesters seems pretty reasonable. And Chuck Schumer caused most of the protests, so.
Ignoring that Schumer's great-grandmother and 7 of her 9 siblings were murdered by the Nazis after they were unable to become refugees.
Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with if he's right or wrong or not. That's just ridiculous. There's no association whatsoever, no relevance.
January 31st, among those confirming they were detained at a U.S. airport during Muslim ban crisis because he once visited Iran, the former Prime Minister of Norway.
Okay, I have no clue what that is because somebody once visited Iran, they weren't allowed at an airport. I have no clue what this is. See, I told you, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I have no idea what they're talking about. I have never heard of it before, and I thought these were going to be really good points because, you know, GQ, left media, they always make real great points. The 50 craziest things Trump's ever done. You know, I thought I was going to come out here today and see some really good points, but no.
February 1st, commemorates start of Black History Month by seemingly implying he does not realize Frederick Douglass has been dead since 1895, then complains about CNN.
Okay, so not knowing your history means that you don't like black people. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Vice President Pence commemorates start of Black History Month by tweeting tribute to Abraham Lincoln. White House does not...
What? Abraham Lincoln did more for black people in this nation's history than anybody else. Even more for MLK. MLK is probably right up there, but Martin Luther King couldn't even have done what he did without Abraham Lincoln paving the way. I mean, Abraham Lincoln came up through, a government that was incredibly racist and shined light on the fact that slaves were humans too, and that they deserve equal rights under the Constitution. And he fought against all of the racist Democrats and tried to make African Americans the same and give them the same rights as other people in the country. And to praise this person would mean that you are for equality to the highest degree. I don't get how that's bad whatsoever. And something that Pence did has nothing to do with how crazy the things that Trump did. So there's another one. I mean, what are we down to, 47 now? 47 things?
White House does not issue readout of weekend phone call between Trump and Vladimir Putin, reportedly because White House switched off the recorder.
Okay, that's probably a lie right there. They probably just didn't want anyone to see the conversation between Trump and Vladimir Putin because, to be honest, I have no clue what it was about. Nobody does because they didn't release it. But at the same time, did they release what he said with all of the other leaders that he's been talking to? Because I haven't seen any transcripts of the phone calls between him and the Mexican government. And how come you're not complaining about that? You just want to see the Russian one because you just want to play up this whole thing that Trump and Putin are somehow butt buddies that want to take over the whole world, which is just ridiculous. Trump said many times he's never even talked to Putin before. He has no relationship with them. They just had a conversation the other day, and I don't even know what it was about.
Attacks Australian refugee deal, calling the 1,250 refugees, quote, thousands of illegal immigrants.
I mean, I think refugees that don't go through the vetting process should be technically called illegal immigrants because they don't have their documents and the government, most of the time a corrupt government, allowed them to come to the country without any proper documentation. So to say that they're illegal immigrants actually kind of makes sense if you think about it.
Revealed by a personal physician to be taking doses of the drug Propecia to promote hair growth. Possible side effects include...
I mean, he's like a 70-year-old man, so obviously he's losing his hair. To be honest, you'd think most of his hair would be gray or white by now. And if he wants to take pills to make his hair stay just so he can keep his appearance up. I mean, Ronald Reagan did the same thing. Ronald Reagan was on medication to keep himself looking more youthful so that he could address the American people and look good for the American people. Why is this a bad thing? You should be praising Donald Trump to try and keep his image up. You should be hoping that he looks good to represent the American people. By assaulting him and making it out to look like a bad thing that he's trying to have a good appearance is ridiculous. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
Dizziness, weakness, feeling like you might pass out, and, quote, abnormal ejaculation. February 2nd, at National Prayer Breakfast, ask for prayers for Arnold Schwarzenegger's TV ratings, and also at prayer breakfast in front of religious leaders from 70 countries says, quote, the hell with it.
Yeah, I didn't like that prayer breakfast thing. I mean, he shouldn't have brought all that narcissistic ego stuff into the prayer breakfast, but also that has nothing to do with his presidency whatsoever. Move on.
Adjust sanctions against the sales of cybersecurity materials to the Russian FSB, the same spy agency accused of blackmailing him.
Okay, I have no clue what this is whatsoever, so I'm not going to look at it, but it just sounds like accusations against something that happened against him that he didn't approve of, so he sounds justified in doing so, but I'm not going to back it up. I have no clue what the subject is whatsoever, but based on how terrible these accusations have been so far, we can only assume that it's not true.
Administration claims Yemen raid was authorized by Obama. Two Obama administration national security advisors publicly state this is not true.
I mean, it did happen. I'm sorry. You think that only Trump's organization and Trump's administration can lie, and then when Obama's administration comes out and says this is not true, oh, we have to believe them. They're just the truth creed. We have to believe everything that they say. They're Obama administration. They're God. That's ridiculous. I mean, this happened, so you have to believe it. Now we know that the Obama administration lies also.
Advisor Propaganda Barbie, Kellyanne Conway, complains that
Okay, that's an
media has
insult.
ignored one of the justifications for the Muslim ban, namely the Bowling Green massacre. There was no Bowling Green massacre. Conway claims she misspoke. Cosmopolitan and TMZ will later report she had already cited the same event, a fictional massacre, in interviews with them.
Yeah, I saw this. It's just Kellyanne Conway doing Kellyanne Conway again. I don't think she's too educated on most of the issues that she tries to talk about on TV, but she was very good at organizing Donald Trump's campaign. And at the same time, I don't think that has anything to do with Trump's presidency. I thought this was the 50 craziest things Trump has done, so we got another one ticked off the list. I think we're down to 45 or 46 things that Trump has done. So that's something Kellyanne Conway has done. You guys can make a separate video about the craziest things Kellyanne Conway has done, and you can put that one in there if you want to. But I thought this was supposed to be about Donald Trump, and it's clearly not.
Tweets that Iran has been, quote, formally put on notice, even though the phrase means nothing diplomatically or militarily.
Yeah, that's because Twitter has nothing to do with the government whatsoever, and you act like it does. You act like Iran is reading Donald Trump's tweets. Iran has been put on notice. They most likely sent a memo or some sort of message to the Iranian government telling them that they need to start buckling down on the civil war issues that they've got going, or the Muslim issues that they've got going over there, and that the country is being put on notice. And it has nothing to do with Twitter whatsoever.
Places on the national security staff a man who helped add the infamous 16 words to George W. Bush's 2003 State of the Union address.
I have no clue what that is.
February
Doesn't sound
3rd,
like anything Trump's
tweets
done.
about a, quote, new radical Islamic terrorist with a knife at the Louvre Museum in Paris. The attack was at the Louvre Mall. There was one minor injury. The alleged perpetrator is Egyptian and would not have been prevented from entering the U.S. by the Trump ban. Trump still has not mentioned the Quebec mosque attack.
Yeah, but it still has to do with Muslim intentions. It was still a Muslim terrorist attack. Somebody was injured. And just because we didn't ban immigration from Egypt doesn't go around the question here as if Muslim or radical Islam is bad. Which it is, so there's your answer to that question.
The Pentagon posts terrorist video supposedly obtained during that Yemen raid to prove the raid was worth it. Administration pulls down that terrorist video when it turns out that terrorist video has been on the internet since 2007.
All right, so 2 seconds ago you said the terrorist raid never happened. What happened to that? You're contradicting yourself here now, mister. You just said that the Obama administration came out and said that this raid never happened, and that we should believe the Obama administration. Now you come out here at point 43 and talk about a video that shows the raid happening and agree to that video, and now criticize Trump for trying to take it down to show how not bad it was. That sounds like he's trying to protect he's trying to protect the interests of the American people by giving them the truth, but also trying to not show them all this grueling stuff that happened during the Yemen raids because it might be private government information. So you just contradicted what you said there in 2 different points, and that's actually freaking ridiculous.
February 4th, in clip revealed in advance of the Super Bowl interview, says he respects Vladimir Putin. Interviewer says, quote, but he's a killer though. Putin's a killer. Trump replies, there are a lot of killers. We've got a lot of killers. What, you think our country's so innocent?
Yeah, he's making it sound like it was with malicious intent. I don't like what Donald Trump said, but at the same time, Donald Trump doesn't have a filter, and it wasn't scripted. So he said that right off the top of his mind. You could tell he really didn't know what to say, and you could tell it came out bad. But he was basically in my opinion, I think this is what Donald Trump was trying to do. He was trying to because he knew Vladimir Putin would be watching the interview, and he was trying to strengthen that relationship with Russia without making Vladimir Putin completely angered, and he's just trying to make sure that leash is never severed, because it's like an opportunity bridge that Donald Trump wants to cross to be able to make Russia compliant with what we want to do with the world and be able to fight Islamic terrorism without all of the bad stuff that Putin has done that's come with them. And if you disavow the bad stuff right to Putin's face, Putin's not going to want to listen. He's not going to want to comply. So to be honest, I think that what Donald Trump said was very kind of a little bit smart, but at the same time a little stupid, because he's trying to strengthen that relationship with Russia so we can try and shape Russia to be able to do what we want, and at the same time he's trying to not piss off everybody else here in the country. So that's why he said he respects Putin, but at the same time he doesn't advocate for all the killing. But that was terrible for him to say that we have a lot of killers here in America, because that doesn't justify killing. That just makes it look like America is bad. So that's the bad part of what he said. The smart part about what he said was trying to strengthen that relationship with Putin. And Putin's a terrible person, but that doesn't mean we can't fix Russia.
Pressed, he implies those killers could include those involved in the war in Iraq. Deputy editor of Wall Street Journal editorial page then tweets, "Never in history has a president slandered his country like this, and he's goddamned right."
I mean, he didn't really slander the country. He was more talking about the government. I mean, he didn't say we have a lot of killers here, meaning like the murders that happen with our own citizens. He meant the government evading the war, like the war that happened in the Middle East. We have the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan. He's talking about invading these countries and going to war with these countries, and they're wars that he didn't support. So essentially, he believes that the government was killing people. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about just the murders, everyday murders that happen here in the country.
February 5th finishes two-day-long siege of Twitter attacks against the Washington state judge who ruled against the Muslim ban, writing of possible terrorism, quote, "If something happens, blame him and court system."
Yeah, I agree with that. You can't go against an executive order. You can only overturn an executive order if it's unconstitutional, and banning immigration from terrorist countries to protect the rights of our citizens here does not go against the Constitution. Actually, that abides by the Constitution and is actually everything that the Constitution stands for. It's here to protect the liberties of the people of this country, not the liberties of people overseas. And if the judge saw a reason to overturn the executive order based on the Constitution, then it would be justified. But this judge overturned the overturned this ruling not because of the Constitution, just because his feelings were hurt and he wanted to look good in public.
Is reported to have signed the executive order placing Steve Bannon on the National Security Council without fully reading it first. Super Bowl
I mean, I'm not too informed on this one either. I've never heard of this one before. But it doesn't sound like you have to know everything about the Executive Security Council to nominate somebody to it. So there's that. You can put your own input on that. That's just me. I have no clue about that issue whatsoever, and I'd love for somebody to educate me on that one.
Interviewer now presses him for data to support illegal voting claims, and he replies, "Forget that, forget all that," and then implies registration rolls prove him right, suggesting he doesn't realize that not everybody who is registered votes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we're back to this illegal voting thing again for, what is it, the third time in this video. So that's another issue that they could have just combined into one number. So it's not 50. They just wanted to try and round it out to 50. And I think he does have logical reasoning to believe that there's tons of illegal voting going on. I already explained that. And just because he wants to disavow what the corrupt media is saying doesn't make him wrong. You're just the media talking back to him saying, no, we are right. You have to listen to us, and if you don't listen to us, you agree with Trump, and if you agree with Trump, you're just a bad person.
February 6th, after one poll showing his first approval rating at a record low 44%, and a CBS poll showing his Muslim ban opposed by 51 to 45%, and a CNN poll showing it rejected 53 to 47%, tweets, right out of George Orwell, "Any negative polls are fake news," and deliberately lies to officers and troops at U.S. Central Command that the media does not want to report terrorist attacks. Quote, "They have their reasons and you understand that."
All right, so the negative polls being fake news, it's kind of half true, half false, because ask yourself, have you ever been polled? Have you ever been polled before? Like all these polls that are released, have you ever been polled before? I don't even know who they're polling. I don't know anybody that's ever been polled. Like, do you support the immigration ban? Do you support this ban? Blah, blah, blah. I have never been polled before in my life. I don't know anybody that's ever been polled. And it's kind of reason to believe that some of these polls may be a little bit biased and some of them might be a little bit fake. But at the same time, Donald Trump shouldn't be coming out and talking about the negative approval polls because it kind of makes himself look like a narcissist again and his ego is big. But that doesn't have anything to do with the presidency, like I said earlier. And that doesn't justify him saying that, but also it doesn't really matter. And number 50 here.
Lies to officers and troops at U.S. Central Command that the media does not want to report terrorist attacks. Quote, they have their reasons and you understand that.
Yeah, the media doesn't really report terrorist attacks whatsoever because they want to make it look like all Muslims are good, and they're just all fluffy little babies that we need to invite over here to the United States without actually addressing the problem that there's a lot of terrorism and a lot of negativity surrounding radical Islam. I mean, the Quran has 109 references that state that you should kill anybody that doesn't believe in your religion or won't accept Islam as their religion. So that's why the media doesn't address terrorism at all. They barely ever talk about it because they never want to paint Muslims as bad. They never want to paint, or not Muslims, they never want to paint radical Muslims as bad because they just want to push their own agenda by allowing radical Muslims to come over here so that they can look good in the public. That's really all they want.
In any other context, business or country, Trump's supporters would now be organizing his removal from authority, even if it were only for his own good.
All right, so my final reaction to this video is honestly that it's just another agenda push from the left trying to make it look like Trump is crazy and bad. And if anybody actually thinks that any of these things are true, you can just show them this video and take all my points and just realize that there were only 45 things that Trump actually did. None of them have any reflection on his presidency whatsoever. At the beginning of the video, they talked about impeachment. None of these things are against the Constitution, and doing something as a president that goes against the Constitution is the only thing that can be voted against for impeachment. That's why we haven't seen a vote for impeachment yet, because it wouldn't go through. The Senate wouldn't vote for it, and the House wouldn't vote for it because it's not. Well, everything he's done is not against the Constitution. Honestly, it's for the Constitution. He's trying to protect people's natural rights and natural liberties here in this country, and this is just another push from the left. So that's the end of part 2. Hopefully there will be more videos like this out in the future. There have been a lot in the past, and I'll be bringing my reactions to them as they come. Thank you.